The elevator doors blasted open as federal agents in black tactical gear sprinted into the marble lobby of Graves Industries. Papers flew. Employees shrieked. Security alarms wailed through the skyscraper. Damian Graves stood in the center of the chaos, his jaw clenched, watching the men tear through the company he built with blood and sleepless years. One agent grabbed his arm. "Damian Graves, you're under federal investigation. You need to come with us." Damian didn't resist. He didn't speak. He only turned his head slightly, his eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on her, Elena Marlowe, his assistant of 4 years, frozen beside the receptionist's desk, her hands trembling. Their eyes locked for a single second, and in that second, Elena felt something she had never felt before: fear. Not fear of the agents, or the press swarming outside. Fear of what was coming. Fear of what this moment meant. "Damian." Elena tried to push forward, but security blocked her. "Stay back, Elena," Damian said, forcing calm into a voice that had commanded boardrooms for a decade. But even she could hear the fracture beneath his words. Cameras flashed wildly as he was marched through the lobby. Reporters screamed questions. "Is it true you hid the breach? Did you falsify earnings reports? Are you stepping down?" Damian didn't answer any of them. Outside, the street was a storm of chaos: sirens, crowds, journalists climbing onto cars to get a shot. Elena pushed her way through, but lost sight of him as he was shoved into a black SUV and driven away. She exhaled shakingly. Something was wrong. Something was deeply wrong. Damian was reckless, arrogant, sometimes infuriating, but he wasn't a criminal. She knew that. She knew everything about how he ran this company, down to the smallest detail. She spent years cleaning up behind executives, smoothing over crises, negotiating with investors, protecting Damian's blind spots. She knew his flaws intimately, but fraud was not one of them. "Elena, what's happening?" a young intern whispered beside her. She swallowed hard. "I don't know. But this wasn't an accident." As agents continued storming through upper floors, Elena stepped back, her mind racing through the last several weeks. Missing financial data, strange internal memos, Damian's tired eyes when he thought no one noticed. Something had been unraveling, and now it had snapped. She hurried to the elevator, ignoring security shouting behind her. She jabbed the button to the executive floor, her heartbeat hammering. The doors opened into Damian's office, now a battlefield. Agents were hauling out files, servers, devices. His desk drawers were overturned. One officer held the framed photo of Damian and his late father before dropping it into a cardboard box. "Ma'am, you're not allowed." "I work here," Elena snapped. "And I need to see the warrant." "Now." The officer blinked, taken aback by the authority in her voice. She'd spent years learning how to speak like a woman who belonged in every room she entered. He handed her the document, and she scanned it quickly: financial misconduct, regulatory evasion, falsified compliance reports. Her stomach dropped. These allegations weren't random. They were strategic. Coordinated. This was not a spontaneous investigation. Someone had been planting seeds for months. "Elena." A shaky voice came from behind her. She turned to see Marcus, the senior analyst who often brought her early reports. His face was pale. "They took every copy of last quarter's audit. Even the backups." That confirmed it. "Then whoever set this up knew exactly where the cracks were," she murmured. "And how to exploit them." "Elena," Marcus whispered, lowering his voice, "I think someone inside helped them." She looked around the trashed office, at the chaos, at the destruction of Damian's life's work. "I think you're right." When the agents finally cleared out, Elena walked to Damian's chair and sat. She exhaled shakily. This was the moment everything changed. She pulled out her phone and called the only person who would answer. But Damian didn't pick up. Of course he didn't. He was surrounded. That night, Elena went home, but she couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every red flag she had ignored: the CFO's sudden rise in influence, the board's closed-door meetings she wasn't invited to, the last-minute financial discrepancies she had found but Damian dismissed. Around 3 a.m., she sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, combing through emails, reports, deleted messages she had archived months earlier. She found something strange: financial transfers made under a shell subsidiary she'd never heard of, signatures that didn't match Damian's handwriting, compliance memos she had never seen. Her chest tightened. This was a setup. Damian wasn't the villain here. He was the target. The next morning, she arrived at Graves Industries early. The atmosphere was suffocating. Employees whispered in hallways. Journalists camped outside. The boardroom blinds were shut. "Elena," someone called softly. She turned to see Cassandra Pike, board member, sharp suit, colder smile. "You're early." "Good. We need you in the boardroom." Elena followed her, though every instinct screamed that something wasn't right. Inside, the board sat around the long table, their expressions carved from stone. Victor Hale, the CFO, straightened his tie as Elena entered. He didn't even try to hide the satisfaction in his eyes. "Elena," Victor said smoothly, "we'll be transitioning certain responsibilities away from your office." She stiffened. "What does that mean?" "It means," Cassandra said, folding her hands, "that Damian Graves will no longer be returning as CEO." Her heart stopped. "That hasn't been decided. The investigation hasn't even concluded." Victor cut her off. "His misconduct is undeniable." "No," Elena said sharply. "What's undeniable is that someone fabricated half." "Elena." Leon Mercer's voice boomed from the head of the table. "I suggest you consider your position before you continue speaking." She looked around the room, searching for one sympathetic face. There were none. "You're pushing him out," she whispered. "You planned this." "No," Victor said with a cold smile. "He did this to himself. And we're cleaning up the mess." Elena stepped closer to the table. "Damian trusted all of you." That, Cassandra replied, was his biggest mistake. The meeting dismissed her before she could respond. But as she walked out, Victor leaned close and murmured, "If you're smart, you'll let this go. Don't tie yourself to a sinking ship." She didn't flinch. "The only thing sinking is your conscience." He laughed softly. "Conscience doesn't win board votes." Elena left the building shaking. She spent the rest of the day calling Damian repeatedly. Still nothing. She even tried his mother's number, but she couldn't reach him. By evening, she drove to his apartment, the one he barely used except for sleeping after late nights at the office. The building's lobby attendant nodded at her. They all knew who she was. She knocked on his door. No answer. "Damian," she called. The lock clicked. The door opened slowly. Damian Graves stood there looking nothing like himself. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He stepped aside silently, allowing her in. He didn't speak until she set her bag down. "They froze everything," he said quietly. "My accounts. My assets. They even seized my father's watch collection." Elena's chest tightened. "Damian, listen to me. You're being framed." He gave a humorless laugh. "Of course I am. Because that's easier to swallow than the truth, right?" "No," she said firmly, stepping closer. "I found shell companies. Forged signatures. Missing data that you never authorized. Someone inside is doing this." He looked up slowly, searching her face. "You're not just saying that?" "You're sure?" "I'm sure," she said. "And I'm going to prove it." Damian sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "They took my company, Elena. Everything I built. Everything I worked for." His voice cracked. She had never heard his voice crack. Elena sat beside him. "Then we take it back." He looked at her, truly looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time in years, not as an assistant, not as an employee, but as the only person standing between him and complete destruction. "Elena," he whispered, "if you do this, they'll come after you too." "They already are," she said softly. "So we fight." He nodded slowly, like a man finding the strength to breathe again. But neither of them knew that the war ahead would be more brutal than anything they had imagined. And this was only the beginning. Elena returned home after leaving Damian's apartment, but sleep didn't greet her. Not even exhaustion could silence her thoughts. Every detail of the past few months unraveled in her mind like threads pulled from a loose seam. Warning signs she'd dismissed. Meetings she hadn't been allowed into. Strange financial shifts she'd assumed were temporary. All of it formed a single conclusion. Someone had been orchestrating Damian's downfall long before the federal agents arrived. By dawn, she was back in her car, weaving through the near-empty city streets. Damian hadn't asked her to return. He hadn't asked for anything. But the moment she saw him broken, truly broken, she knew she couldn't let this end like a tragic documentary of a fallen billionaire. Not when she still felt the truth pulsing beneath the surface. When she entered the building, the receptionist stared at her with a mixture of pity and fear. "Elena, they said employees shouldn't go upstairs today. The board's doing something." "Great," she muttered. "Then I definitely need to go upstairs." The elevator door shut, and for a moment she watched her reflection, dark circles under her eyes, tension etched into every line of her face. She didn't look like an assistant anymore. She looked like someone preparing for battle. The doors opened to an eerily silent floor. Her office door was ajar. Elena Marlowe, a cold voice called from inside. Cassandra Pike stood in her office, going through her drawers with a bored expression. Leon Mercer leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching like a man monitoring a small fire he'd started. Victor Hale stood by her laptop, scrolling through her files with smug ownership. "What are you doing in my office?" Elena demanded. Victor didn't bother to look up. "Compliance check." "Bullshit," she snapped. Cassandra closed a drawer gently, as if finishing a mundane task. "We need to ensure no documents related to the investigation are misplaced." "You mean documents you planted?" Elena shot back. Leon stepped forward. "Careful." "No," Elena said. "You be careful. The agents already pulled everything. So, whatever you're looking for, it's something you didn't want them to find, isn't it?" Victor's jaw tightened for just a moment, just long enough for her to catch it. Cassandra walked toward her slowly. "We're reorganizing the structure of Graves Industries. Your position may become redundant during this period." Elena laughed, short, sharp. "You're firing me?" "No," Victor said calmly. "We're eliminating the need for your role." "Big difference." She stepped closer, nose inches from his. "You're terrified of me." Victor smirked. "Terrified of an assistant?" "Please." "You should be," she whispered. Leon grabbed her elbow. "You need to leave." She yanked her arm back. "Fine. But remember this moment when this all blows up in your face." Victor leaned in. "It already has. For Damian, at least." She left without another word, because staying another second would have ended with her throwing her stapler at Victor's skull. And assaulting a board member wasn't going to help Damian. In the parking garage, she slid into her car, shut the door, and screamed one loud, rage-filled release. Then she gripped the steering wheel and breathed. She couldn't fall apart. Not yet. She pulled out her phone and dialed someone she'd hoped she'd never need again. "Jules," she said when the man answered. "I need your help." There was a pause. "Elena Marlowe? Haven't heard from you since you told me to never call you again." "Well," she said, "I take that back." "What do you need?" "Digital forensics. Full dive. Highest level." "Who's the target?" She exhaled. "Graves Industries." Jules whistled. "That's not a job, that's a suicide note." "I'm already halfway dead," she muttered. "Fine. Bring whatever you've got." She drove across the city to a rundown building that looked abandoned. Jules worked in shadows by choice, avoiding corporate entanglements. Inside the dim room, dozens of screens illuminated his tired eyes. He looked her over. "You look terrible." "Thanks. I feel worse." She handed him a flash drive. Internal emails. Financial drafts. Deleted memos. Find anything that proves Victor Hale's involved. Jules inserted the drive and typed rapidly. "Let's see what your corporate overlords have been hiding." "Former overlords," she corrected. Minutes passed in silence, then Jules suddenly froze. Oh wow. What?" Elena leaned in. "Someone copied Damian's signature using a pressure-sensitive replication tool. This isn't forged manually, it's digital cloning." Her stomach tightened. "So Victor's behind it." "Wait," Jules said, digging deeper. "Not just Victor. Look here. Metadata links Cassandra Pike to document deletions. And Leon Mercer approved fund transfers under a fake subsidiary. Elena whispered, "They planned all of this." Damian didn't fall. They shoved him off the cliff. Jules nodded grimly. And the cliff was engineered years ago. "Can you extract this?" she asked. "Already exporting," he said. "But Elena, this isn't small-time fraud. They coordinated federal involvement. Someone high up wanted Damian erased." Her breath caught. "Keep digging." Jules hesitated. "You sure? The more I find, the more dangerous this becomes." "I'm past safe," she said. "Find everything." An hour later, Elena left with a hard drive full of hell. She drove straight to Damian's apartment. She barely knocked before he opened the door, as if waiting. He wore the same clothes as yesterday. "Did they fire you?" he asked softly. "No," she said. "Worse. They're scared of me." His eyebrows lifted. "Why?" She stepped inside and handed him the drive. "Because I know too much." He stared at it like it might explode. "Elena, what is this?" "Proof," she said. "You were framed." He sat heavily on the couch. "Show me." She connected the drive to his laptop. As the files opened, Damian leaned forward, his expression tightening. Email chains showing Victor discussing transitioning leadership. Deleted memos Cassandra signed. Financial transfers Leon approved without authorization. Damian whispered, "They planned to destroy me." "They planned to steal the company," she corrected. He covered his face with both hands. She sat beside him, watching the war inside him, the humiliation, the anger, the grief, the betrayal. She knew this moment mattered. Men like Damian weren't built to feel helpless. And yet here he was, stripped down to the rawest parts of himself. "Elena," he said finally, his voice weak, "why are you helping me?" She blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" "You don't owe me anything. I treated you like someone who could handle everything," she said. "You weren't wrong." He looked at her then, really looked. "I didn't see how much you did. How much you protected." "You didn't have to," she replied. "I knew your blind spots, Damian. And this is the blindest of them." He inhaled shakily. "So, what do? We expose them." He gave a dry laugh. "How?" "The board controls the media. The regulators think I'm guilty. My lawyers quit. I'm one man against a machine." "You're not one man," she said. "You have me. And I'm not scared of them." He stared at her, something shifting in his eyes, respect, maybe. Hope, even. A spark returning to a man who'd lost everything. "Elena," he whispered, "if you help me do this, you'll lose your career." She smiled faintly. "Then I suppose I'll have to build a new one." He exhaled, half laugh, half sob. "God, why would you risk everything for me?" "Because," she said, "you are worth saving." He fell silent. Then he nodded slowly. "All right. Tell me what we do next." The next days blurred into a covert war. Elena met with former Graves employees who'd been pushed out quietly, engineers fired for discovering irregularities, compliance officers dismissed for questioning Victor. One of them, a cybersecurity specialist named Darren, agreed to help. Darren stared at the evidence Elena brought. "This is insider manipulation. Stock suppression. Corporate coup-level conspiracy." "So you'll help?" she asked. "With everything I've got." Meanwhile, Damian confronted the people he still believed might stand with him, calling old board allies, influential partners, even past mentors. Most of them refused to answer. A few offered sympathy, but nothing useful. One said, "Damian, you're toxic now. I have to protect my own reputation." He hung up without responding. Elena saw the pain in his eyes each time. But she also saw something else: growing resolve. One night, while Elena combed through more data, Damian approached her quietly. "You haven't slept." "Neither have you." He leaned on the table. "Why didn't I listen to you months ago?" She paused. "You trusted the wrong people." "I trusted everyone except the one person I should have." His voice cracked slightly. She looked up. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, something fragile yet fierce. "We're going to win, Damian," she said. "I promise." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I believe you." 2 days later, Darren made a discovery that changed everything. "Elena," he said, rushing into the apartment. "You need to see this." They gathered around his laptop. He pulled up a hidden email exchange between Victor and Cassandra. The subject line read, Phase 3, after removal. Damian stiffened. Elena held her breath as Darren opened the message. It detailed their plan to tank the stock further, dissolve remaining departments, and acquire the entire company under a private entity owned by Leon Mercer. Damian stared, face pale. They weren't just removing me. They wanted to erase me. Elena whispered, and they almost succeeded. Damian stood abruptly. We need to expose this now. Not yet, she said firmly. If we go early, they'll find a way to spin it. We need complete evidence. And then what? He demanded. March into the boardroom like some avenging ghost? Yes, she said softly. Exactly that. He stared at her, stunned by the confidence in her voice. Elena, he shook his head slightly. You're not the woman I hired. I know, she said. I'm better. He laughed, a real, genuine laugh, and some of the heaviness in the room lifted. But neither of them realized that their enemies were already watching. Because across the city, in the top floor of Graves Industries, Victor Hale stood by the window, sipping scotch, reading a quiet notification on his phone. Unauthorized access detected, restricted folders. He smiled coldly. So, he murmured, the assistant thinks she can play hero. He turned to Cassandra and Leon, who sat across the room. They're digging, Victor said. We need to accelerate the plan. Leon raised an eyebrow. And if Elena exposes us? Victor finished his drink. Then Elena Marlowe disappears. Elena didn't know they were being watched. Not yet. She spent the next 2 days collecting the remaining evidence with Darren while Damian prepared statements, drafts, and contingencies. Every hour, the weight of the conspiracy pressed harder, but Elena kept pushing, driven by something deeper than loyalty, driven by the belief that truth mattered, that justice mattered, and that Damian Graves didn't deserve to be destroyed by the people he trusted most. Late that night, as rain streaked down the apartment windows, Elena sat hunched over Damian's kitchen table, connecting one final set of files. Damian approached quietly, 2 steaming cups in his hands. You need this, he said, handing her one. She took it without looking up. I'm close. I just need to decrypt one more directory. Darren said the key was hidden inside an older audit here. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Damian watched her, something heavy and emotional in his expression. Elena, he said softly. She paused. What? You didn't have to do any of this. She shook her head. Yes, I did. He sat down beside her, close enough she felt the warmth of his presence. Most people fled the second my name hit the news. Even people who claimed to love me. People I trusted. People I defended. I'm not most people, she murmured. No, he said, voice thick, you're not. You're the only one who stayed. She didn't respond. She couldn't. Not when her throat was tightening, not when the weight of everything threatened to break her open. So she focused on the screen. A notification popped up. Decryption complete. Her eyes widened. Damian. I found it. She clicked the folder. Inside were spreadsheets, call logs, and a series of private recordings. One showed Victor Hale on a video conference, saying, once Graves is out, we trigger Phase 3 immediately. By Q4, the company will be under our new entity. Another recording captured Cassandra laughing. Damian thinks he's untouchable. But when you've built a throne on arrogance, all it takes is the right push. Damian's jaw clenched. She kept playing the recordings. Leon said, he'll crumble fast. He's emotionally dependent on his work. Once that's stripped away, he'll disappear. A muscle in Damian's cheek twitched. Elena reached over and pressed pause. You don't have to watch more, she said gently. Yes, he whispered, I do. He pressed play again. Victor's voice, and when the company acquires our shell, we split the shares 3 ways. Then we rebuild Graves Industries under our own leadership. Damian stood from the table so abruptly his chair toppled over. He walked to the window, gripping the edge of the frame as if holding himself together. They used me, he said. All those years. All the sacrifices. They pretended to support me while waiting to stab me the moment I slipped. Elena stood slowly. They didn't just use you. They underestimated you. He turned to her, eyes glassy with the kind of rage that wasn't loud. It was cold, controlled, sharpened into purpose. Then let's show them what a mistake that was. The next morning, Elena woke early, her heart pounding. Today was the day they exposed everything. Today, Damian would confront the board. And today, the truth would shatter the empire that Victor, Cassandra, and Leon built on deceit. She dressed quickly and walked into the living room, expecting to see Damian pacing or reading. Instead, she found him sitting quietly on the couch, suit immaculate, face calm. "You're ready," she said. He nodded. "Are you?" She hesitated, then admitted, "I'm scared." "So am I," he said. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs to be done despite it. They left together, riding in Damian's older, modest sedan, a pathetic downgrade from the armored vehicles he used to command, but today it felt perfect. A rebirth. As they drove toward Graves Industries, Elena's phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. "You should have stayed silent." Her blood ran cold. She didn't show it to Damian. Not yet. Not when they were minutes away from the most important moment of their lives. They parked and walked into the building. Security stared, startled. Employees whispered. Cameras turned. Damian Graves had returned. Cassandra Pike stood near the elevators, visibly stunned. "Damian? You can't be here." He ignored her, stepping into the elevator with Elena. As the doors closed, he exhaled a shaky breath. "They're going to panic," she whispered. "Good," he said. "They should." The elevator opened onto the top floor. Victor, Leon, and the remaining board members sat around the long table, mid-meeting. Conversation stopped. Silence flooded the room. Victor stood slowly. "Damian, this is highly inappropriate." Damian walked forward with absolute control. "Good morning, Victor." Cassandra. Leon. Everyone. Elena followed, head held high. Leon scoffed. "This is a private meeting." "You were removed." "Was I?" Damian asked softly. "Or was I forced out by criminals?" A murmur rippled around the table. Cassandra sat back with an icy smile. "Damian, please. Don't embarrass yourself." Elena placed the hard drive on the center of the table. It landed with a sharp click that echoed across the room. "That," she said, "is every document, email, forgery, fake signature, deleted memo, and recording you all tried to hide." Victor paled. "You have no legal right." "You framed me," Damian said, stepping closer. "You ruined my life, my reputation, my family name. And you thought I would disappear quietly." Leon sneered. "This company needed stronger leadership. Like you." Damian barked. "A man who can't manage a division without falsifying numbers?" Victor slammed his fist on the table. "You can't prove anything."
We just need to
Elena
pin it
tapped
all
the
on Damian
laptop she
Graves.
had brought.
And cover our tracks.
"Then let's play something." She pressed a key. Victor's recorded voice filled the room. "Once Graves is out, we trigger phase 3 immediately." Then Cassandra's voice. "He thinks he's untouchable." Then Leon's. "He'll crumble fast." The boardroom froze. Several members looked horrified. 2 stood up immediately, distancing themselves physically as if betrayal had a scent. Victor tried to speak, but no words came out. Cassandra whispered, "Elena, how did you?" "That's the funny thing about assistants," Elena said. "They see everything." Suddenly, the door burst open. Federal agents walked in, this time not for Damian. Victor Hale, Cassandra Pike, Leon
We
Mercer,
don't have much time.
the lead officer
Tell us what you know.
announced. "You're under arrest for fraud, insider trading, and conspiracy." Chaos erupted. Cassandra shouted. Leon lunged for a briefcase. Victor tried to run. Agents swarmed them. Elena stepped back, breathing hard. She felt Damian's hand touch hers for the briefest moment, an anchor amidst the storm. As the corrupt board members were dragged out, the remaining board members turned to Damian. "Mr. Graves," one said, we had no idea." "I believe some of you," Damian replied. "But ignorance is no longer an excuse." The room fell silent again. One board member cleared his throat. "Given the circumstances, we move to reinstate you as CEO effective immediately." A vote was taken. Unanimous. Damian Graves was back. And when he turned around, his eyes found Elena first. Later, in his restored office, still messy from the raid weeks ago, Damian stood at the window overlooking the city. Elena entered quietly. "It's yours again," she said. "No," he replied, turning to her. "It's ours." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He walked forward, holding a folder. "Elena Marlowe, from this day forward, you are no longer my assistant." Her heart skipped. "You're naming me CFO," she guessed. He smiled faintly. "Higher." He handed her the document. "Chief Strategy Officer, Graves Industries." Elena stared at it, stunned. "Damian, this is everything." "No," he said softly. "This is the bare minimum you deserve." Emotion filled her eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said. "You saved my life." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. "This isn't over." Her breath caught. Damian noticed the shift in her expression. "Elena? What is it?" She hesitated. "I think someone else was involved. Someone higher. Someone who hasn't shown their face yet." Damian looked at her with a newfound fire. "Then let them come." She nodded slowly, pocketing her phone. The battle was won. But the war was only beginning. And as the camera of this story fades, the narrator's voice would echo. If you want to see how far Damian and Elena will go to protect the empire they rebuilt, don't forget to like, comment your theories, and subscribe for part 2. Their enemies aren't finished, and neither is this story.